I've spent my whole life really despising politicians, not just on principle, but also personally, as people. And I feel that way about most of them still.
It's disgusting. Did you see the Will Ferrell doc that Netflix is doing?
Yeah.
They're so intent on
And you can see it
destroying people.
But I look around and there are more people I admire, I can't believe I'm saying this, in politics than really at any time I can remember. And I think there's so much pressure, downward exerted pressure on all of us to obey, to repeat the lies, to get in line, that the people who refuse to do that are extraordinary people. The person we're about to invite on is the only person I've ever met who spent, 20 years being denounced pretty much every week by every single news organization in the world. And this man, in the face of opposition that no politician I've ever seen, he persisted in saying what he thought was true. And I've known this man for a while, and I've admired him for a long time. And what's amazing is to wake up in a country that in some ways is not getting better, but to wake up in a country that all of a sudden has stopped mocking this man as a crazy person and has started to realize that the lone brave voice may have been right all along. And so it's an honor to introduce Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
Reception that Bobby Kennedy got. He was always considered like a far-out, wacko, liberal Democrat. Last night, from people who are not far-out, wacko, liberal Democrats, just the opposite, who hate the Democratic Party, and for every good reason. He got a reception, I don't know, second only to Trump? I don't know. You'd have to see them together, maybe more intense. And Bobby, both of them, ran for president. They just ran for president. Both of them dropped out. They both lost. And it just confirms my longstanding view that I've lived personally, that, losing, being humiliated a little bit as a man is essential. It's absolutely essential. There's nothing worse for a man than to, continuous winning turns you into an unbearable person, arrogant, cocksure, stupid, lacking wisdom. You really need to be humiliated. You have to go to your wife and be like, I'm sorry that I've shamed our family by losing. That is good for your soul. And both of them have just been through it. And in Bobby's case, he's 70. This is it. He's not going to run for office ever again. So his political ambitions are gone. So he had to release his ambition. And the other thing that's really important, particularly for men, is at some point to release their ambition. I don't want anything else. I'm full. I'm sated. I did it. And paradoxically, once you stop wanting power, power flows into you. And power has just flooded him. And you could feel it. You can feel it when you meet him, when you're standing next to him, when you watch him speak, it's unmistakable. He's totally focused. And in the final 2 minutes, I asked him,
why are you doing this?
And he gave such a stirring answer, an amazing answer, a beautiful answer. And he basically said this country is becoming totalitarian and it's betraying its core promise.
People are waking up to the fact that the United States is now enduring a kind of totalitarianism, and we're all seeing this clampdown of autocratic controls, of censorship, the rise of the surveillance state, the increased addiction to foreign wars. A lot of us have been propagandized, and a lot of people now are waking up from that hypnosis. Those are the people that you see in Tucker's audiences.
I think in 50 years we'll look back, I'll be long dead, but wise people look back at the Trump phenomenon and see it as much bigger than the man, but as a realignment of the parties and of American society. And as Bobby Kennedy said last night, in the last election, 2020, Biden voters held 70% of the country's wealth, and Trump voters held 30%. So who's the party of the rich and powerful? Of course, it's the Democratic Party. It's an inversion.
In the Democratic Party, is not the Democratic Party that I grew up with. It's not the Democratic Party of Robert Kennedy or John Kennedy. That was the party of peace. It was the party of civil rights and constitutional rights. It's now the party of censorship and surveillance and war. The Democratic Party is now the party of big pharma, big tech, big military-industrial complex, the big banks, Wall Street, big data, and the big media. They've forgotten about the constituencies that I grew up with in the Democratic Party, the cops, the firefighters, the labor unions. The Democratic Party, when I was growing up, was the party of the poor, the working poor, the middle class. Today, it's the party of the super rich. So you've seen this complete realignment.
Yeah, the class system in America has changed so much in its beliefs and in who represents them. Of course, it's the Democratic Party, it's the party of the powerful. So, it's only been recently that I think the Republican Party structurally has started to acknowledge and accept that and change. And I think Bobby Kennedy, man, maybe more than anybody, will change it.
This is the first election where the independent media is now an important factor. I mean, you had in the 2016 election, you had the emergence of Twitter as a force. You know, when my uncle ran for president, he was the first television president. This is the first election where podcasters and independent media like Tucker Carlson are getting much more viewership than the traditional legacy corporate-owned media. It's really quite extraordinary, and it's having an impact.
You know, in the Democratic Party, because that party is based not on the individual but on the group, on the hive, any dissent is, not tolerated at all. It's just crushed immediately. In the Republican Party, it's just exactly the opposite. Oh, you agree with us on 10% of things? We love you. Welcome. And actually, so there's that. But I think that Bobby is doing something even more important. Love for the natural world is, like at the very center of my family. So, and has always been so. I've always wanted the Republican Party to be a party that cared about nature, that totally ignored the climate change insanity, which is false, okay? Climate is changing, people aren't doing it, and they're destroying the natural world in the name of saving the climate or something. It's like so crazy and evil. But that doesn't mean that the environment, the actual environment, the water, the air, the land, the soil doesn't need to be protected. Of course it does. The Republican Party was just always resistant to that. They'd be like, well, Monsanto's not so bad. Well, yeah, actually it is. Sorry. And I feel like a lot of Republicans post-COVID can admit that big business is their enemy. It's been, everything's a mixed blessing, but in general, not good. The concentration of this much power in this few hands is bad.
So in September, we went across the country, coast to coast, 17 different cities on a nationwide live tour, and it was amazing. And we brought the entire staff with us, like we always do, because we all worked together for so long and enjoy traveling together. And one of our producers is a documentary filmmaker. And so he decided to make a documentary film about our trip, a full month across America with some of the most interesting people around. Different people joined us every single night. Bongino and Russell Brand and Bobby Kennedy and J.D. Vance and Donald Trump, et cetera, et cetera. We had the best time. And the fruit of that is a documentary called On the Road, the Tucker Carlson Live Tour, which is available right now on TCN. On the Road, Tucker Carlson Live Tour. It is hilarious. You will like it. Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. We hope you'll subscribe to it. And by the way, you can hit the little bell on there and get notifications every time we produce a video. We hope you'll do that also.